Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Omega Files. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom, and no, there will not be a prize cash giveaway. We've gathered tonight to talk about the second series of Stranger Things, which has popped out on Netflix recently. Once again, very, very stirring saga. Lots of ups and downs, lots of weirdness, and of course, interdimensional creatures that will eat your cat. Okay, when I go around, call your name, go ahead and go into your opening thoughts on Stranger Things. Let's start down at the bottom. Let's start with Beefhead.
It's really nice. It's come back insofar as the story goes exactly a year after it is. And it's pure nostalgia for me, to be honest with you. I'm a big 80s fan, being a child of the 80s myself. What's going on there? I'm frozen. Am I frozen? No. Well. No. Anyway, being a big fan of the 80s myself, being a child of the 80s, it's a massive nostalgia fest for me because I remember the amazing thing of the arcade, and you really do get everything like you are back there again. You have all the familiar faces. What's nice is everyone's sort of trying to move on, but not addressing the elephant in the room. So, you still have your evil agency. You still got, the kids. And what's good is that where you would think they're going to mash them all together straight away, that's held off really, really, really towards the end. And what I liked about it as well is that the things that you didn't necessarily get with the first year's ones, the other kids that weren't really in the forefront in the first story, they got more of a bite at it. They focused more on their stories as well. So you had a little bit of the sort of will they, won't they relationship with the older kids, but the main core of it was good. And what I like now is that you can see, I think with the first one, you didn't know if it was going to be a one-shot deal. This one, you can see that it's been structured in a way that is going to lead into something bigger. You haven't had Winona Ryder hysterically crying in this one. You got away from that. There's still the apprehension of, I've got to feel sorry for the person who, whether she's got a cleaner, her character has a cleaner, because her house really goes through the ringer. It got bashed to crap last year. This one, it's covered in all sorts of stuff and everything like that. Sean Astin, he was really irritating as well for me. But by the time at the end of it, you did want him to get away from it. I'm looking forward to it. Matthew Modine is going to come back, bigger and badder, I would presume, by the time the third series comes around. And how many more kids are out there? So, it's certainly an off to the races type of thing.
Alrighty. All right, Texas Tim.
Well, I agree with all of that. And like any good second series or any sequel to a popular film, they do what they should do, is they build upon what they've already set up, and they add a few more new characters to the mix and make it seem even bigger than it was last time. They continue the story as they did, and one of the things that these writers are really good at is having all these pieces on the board and then slowly but surely moving them together so that they get into a really big ending where all the pieces are in place for the finale. I thought they did a really good job with that this time as well. Otherwise, it is a nostalgia fest for anybody that lived through the 80s. It's a lot of fun. The soundtrack's amazing. It's great. It's a great show. I wish they could do more, like they could do a couple of series a year, because these kids are going to outgrow it pretty soon. But what can you do about that?
Yeah, very true. Okay, Elijah.
We moved on. I mean, season 1 set the bar. Season 2 set the bar even higher. And one thing that I liked this year that they didn't really, last year was kind of setting it up, but is they did have different groups. I didn't expect, Eleven and Hopper to be, have their own thing. And then you also had, Dustin, Lucas, and Max as a thing. And then later you had Dustin, Lucas, and Max and Steve. So I thought it was interesting. They're kind of mixing up the groups a little bit. But this series just, stepped up the game even further, and I really enjoyed this season.
Alrighty. Oh, right, Philip.
Oh, hang on. Hello. Yeah, I enjoy this second season more than the first because what it's done, it's kind of highlighted the plight of Will a lot more than what it done because he was hardly in it in the last season. So this season he's playing kind of center stage, and also you're getting more in depth into the upside down world. Whereas there's a good segment where Hopper, the policeman, he gets drawn, he gets pulled under the upside down, and he's trapped down there and attacked by all the little stuff like that. That's kind of cool. And yes, as Tim said, Winona Ryder, her character is more subtle and calmed down now, and a lot more pleasable to watch. I do. My favorite episode. I'm gonna name my favorite episode of the whole 9 would have to be the Pollywog because of the creature as it slowly develops from a small slug thing to a giant. Demi Gorgon. That was a good episode. So if anything, that's a good episode. Plus the one where, if I can give the game away, where 11 meets her counterpart in episode 7. That's a good episode as well. So overall, I enjoyed it, and although it's a long run, I do urge people to watch it over and over because it is quite a watchable second season as opposed to the first.
All righty. All right. William, are you there? Okay, we'll move on to AJ, then we'll come back to you. All right, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, well, there's not much I can really say that the guys haven't already said. Season 2, bigger, badder, better, back in black. More of the upside down. Really love the individual groups. You know, you got the kids working with themselves, you got the adults working by themselves, and everything coming together in the final episode where all the groups just become one big group. I see more Silent Hill references, more Lovecraftian references, and also the fact that they don't have a little handbook like in Supernatural or Grimm where they flip through the book and they find the monster that they're dealing with. They flip through a Dungeons and Dragons book and they come up with the closest approximation of the real life monster they're dealing with and going, yeah, that's close enough. That's our guy there. I like the fantastical meeting what we have in the real world and apparent comparison between the two. I cannot wait for season 3 to see how far they go with the next season. Also, really strange that they kept bringing up Barbara, as in she's coming back. Maybe she'll come back in the next season. Who's to say? So, yeah, more talk later on about that though.
Alrighty. Okay. William's still not with us. We'll have to come back to him. Yeah, I did notice that. There was a lot of Lovecraftian type, imagery, that creature, the big shadow lord, whatever it is, he's coming to get you, from the other realm. Yeah, now William's back. Okay. Let's go ahead and pop on over to William now that he's with us.
Yeah, sorry to make you wait. And this is an interesting season too because we all know how the character of Babs passed away and all that. So to follow up this season and show more with the kids and all that together and of course in separate situations, it's a great season. Of course it's seeing Winona Ryder, the mother, her character improved so much and her strength, especially the way she is devoted to her 2 sons. It's great to see like that. And of course the mystery of what's going on at the station that started this whole thing was pretty cool, especially you could say a lot of them got the comeuppance when those dogs popped out of the hole. So that was very great to see. 11 her character was much better, and we get to finally know her first name and all that, and you could say her origin, which we don't really need to know. All we want to know was what her name was and who her mom is. So that was great to see that. Now after of course the big question is after this season finale, like what's going to happen next season? We wait and find out about that because whether they're going to follow up to this same thing or create a whole new story, we wait and find out. We have to be patient about that. Considering you got to give Netflix props for putting all stops for making the season a much talked about and most watched series in quite a while. So I got to give them props for that.
All right. Yeah, a lot of different pairing ups, a lot of different breaking ups. Oh no. Oh no. What's her name and what's his name finally got together? Hang on. Nancy, I think, and John. I think are they? Yeah, finally got together. Yeah, everyone was like, "Are they gonna finally get together?" Well, guess what? They did. Spoiler alert! Too late. And then of course we had what was his name? Her boyfriend before all that. It's on the tip of my mind.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, getting his butt royally kicked by that. Oh, I was so hoping that dude, Max's brother, was gonna get eaten, man.
Billy. Yeah, Billy.
Yeah, I was jumping for joy when he hopped in the Camaro. Oh, yeah, bitchin' car, by the way. I was really jumping for joy when he hopped in the Camaro and he was heading towards the house because I was like, oh, yeah, he's going to get eaten by a Demogorgon. Oh, yeah, here it goes. And they did. I'm like,
damn. well, the way it looked like he might get eaten by a much older woman. So then we find out about that later.
Eaten by a cougar. Yeah.
Mom's on the prowl. But yeah, we got a little bit more into Eleven's backstory. We found out about what happened to her mom. We found out about that she actually had someone else who was in the program with her. Number 8, who apparently is off living in New York. Well, I can't remember what city was it they were in again.
Chicago.
It was Chicago. You're right. And they've she's kind of formed this little gang, and they're doing all these nifty things. And she has the power to make people see things that aren't really there, but she like preys on their fears. Pretty nifty ability, Oh, look, there's a wall.
She's like a vigilante, right? I mean, basically.
Yeah. Okay, open floor. Who wants to go first? Anybody?
I'll just say that this. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it's nice the way it's developed. The sort of the main kids are growing up, and they're sort of like when it was like boys' own adventures. Now there's the element of the sort of interest in girls and everything like that. So you get this idea of the kids are sort of getting older and the dynamics are changing as well. So, you do have a fantastic sort of way that's happening as well. And the thing is with Steve as well. Steve was, in the first season, I think, he was a villain, but you ended up turning around and sort of getting to like him. But he's like the cool guy at school. And then what they've done now is that they've given him a sort of a adversary in the case of Max's brother, who is like completely like your Kiefer Sutherland in the Lost Boys type character. That's exactly who he came across as a complete and utter dick, to be honest with you. So, but it was really good. I think that's it. Like Tim was saying earlier, the new additions that they've made to it are just like they were needed characters that I think you didn't realise that, but now the sort of the characters are evolved, and you've got past that development stage. It's really filled a gap, and it is such a solid cast. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that the last series left a lot of questions unanswered. It left a lot of things open to be continued, whereas I think this one felt a bit more closed off. It seems like they did what they needed to do, and the only clue that you had anything was coming was that last scene.
Okay, anybody else? Floor's wide open.
Am I the only one who actually loved that they dressed up as the Ghostbusters and went to school for Halloween and no one else showed up dressed up as anything?
Major L.
And there was 2 Venkmans.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's it. The argument about, well, I don't want to be Winston. Well, why I can't be Winston? Why? Because you're not black? Yeah, it was really funny. There's so many like little reference in it as well. To be honest with you, I love the bit that you've got the idea that Dustin's got the creature that he's feeding and everything like that, and he's giving it candy bars, and by the time it's all like when it runs away and escapes, you get a little bit of the Gremlins music as well. There's so many clever references in that, to be honest with you. And I love the fact as well that if you're watching this, you've got to have watched it by now. That by the end of it, you do have the creature sort of come back, the one that and it does recognise him. I like it. This is like, yeah, evil has really taken root in their town as well. It's where it would have been really easy, I think, to have done a bit of a rehash of last year. They've really tried to do something different with it. So it's not a case of, oh, right, someone goes missing or something like that. It's a case of now it's breaking through onto this side. And that's that. Yeah, I think it was just a case of, like Phil was saying as well, that instead of him being off screen, he's been on screen for a lot of it, and you get more of his journey. That no one's really come through unscathed from last year.
I like too. It's like you spot the reference. I mean, the last episode, you have the whole Exorcist bit, and then you have also the aliens bit with the creatures scaling the walls and stuff. I mean, it's like spot the reference, from other movies you've seen before.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Did anyone else like, Dustin had that thing he kept saying, look, check out these pearly whites. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, the one scene, especially when those guys were trapped down there in the center of that thing, and you hear the motion tracker things going off. I'm like, yeah, that's aliens. And you see the things, look, they're coming out of the walls, man. Oh, that was a nice reference there.
But that's the fun thing about this show is they can steal from any movie you've ever seen and get away with it because it's an homage or whatever. It's a pastiche of all the horror films that you've ever liked. Basically, that's why it works so well because it really is a nostalgia fest.
Especially in the senses that, Matthew Modine, who was, leading the Shadow organisation last year as a character called Father, who do they get to replace him? Paul Reiser from My Two Dads. He did that. So it's one father replacing another. I like the idea as well that, he was also, I don't know, perhaps there was a bit more to him rather than just being a cold-hearted villain. There was a sort of redeeming feature to it. And I think you get it halfway through where there's a meeting and they're all sort of looking at what's happened and everything like that. They're saying, well, if this kid dies, tough titty, do you know what I mean? That's how, we've got to do what we've got to do. And he says, no, there's got to be another way. So it's a case of not everyone is black and white. There are shades of grey in this as well.
Well, he stays behind as well to make sure they get out okay. When, that's like pretty much a sacrifice. I mean, a suicide.
Yeah, that's the feel I got from him. This guy's been brought in to, like keep this mess contained. And, he's doing, what he has to do to keep it contained. But at the same time, he wasn't willing to sacrifice the boy. When he looks at that guy and he goes, say that again. That was a nice stirring moment right there. Okay. And then, of course, we had What About Poor Bob? Samwise Gamgee, he lands in this, which I thought was nifty in itself, especially when he got to make the X marks the spot joke. What do you think they're going to find there? Pirate treasure? I got a good kick out of that as well. Okay. Anyone else?
Well, to be fair, I thought like Tim, he was a bit useless at first. I mean, because he was like the step for the boyfriend that the kids didn't really like that much because they thought he was a bit nerdy. But he ends up helping them out at that point when they're like doing the whole let's tear up the house and put up all this stuff, and so he ends up redeeming himself. He ends up becoming a likable character. And they did this precisely because he is a red shirt and they are going to kill him at some point, which, poor Hobbit got it. There you go. So.
Yeah, you get the feeling that he's a sort of tragic character from the sort of get-go, to be honest with you, because it's sort of like he's in this relationship and he's more into it really than she is. So you think you sort of like, you're actually on her side thinking, oh God, he's just irritating. He's just there.
But by the end, she changes. I have to say, I differ with you guys on Winona Ryder's because she does really, instead of being the weepy missing kid woman, she's actually a lot stronger in this one. By the end, when she's the one that wants that thing out of her son, and she's going to do anything to do it. Remember, the other son is over there saying, "No, Mom, no, you're hurting him." But she's like, "No, I want that thing out of him." So she keeps on turning up the heat, and she's really ballsy. So I think if she was too weepy last year, she did redeem herself.
the one thing about Bob I didn't like was he seemed like he had an ulterior motive, like he was a spy or something, keeping an eye on the family. To me, I don't know if anyone saw that, but he felt like he was being too bumbly and nerdy on purpose.
I got that vibe at first, but then when you saw that he works at like their version of a Best Buy or whatever, he's like a computer, even though they didn't really have
Radio Shack, yeah.
Yeah, he's more of but he is a very tech guy. He knows the computer language, which comes to help them later, although he ends up, losing his life over it. But there you go.
That also, they had a Jurassic Park reference before Jurassic Park, where they had to reset the breakers and they had to, use the computer system and all that, which I thought was clever.
Well, that's what I was saying. Being the kind of show it is, they can steal from anybody and get away with it. Any movie.
I think also you got to give props as well to Hopper as well. They really brought his character on leaps and bounds in this, to be honest with you. Yeah, before it was a case of he was sort of, that
depressed father.
Yeah, the depressed father. He had redemption to his story to a certain degree in the first season, but by this it's a case of you sort of wonder where he is at the start of it, because you get that sort of idea that he's still coming into the office in the morning, a little bit still hanging from the night before and everything like that. Yeah.
Well, do you remember last year? Do you remember that you didn't really find out why he was the way he was until I think the last episode, or maybe the second to last? So in his mind, I'm thinking this is a chance for him to redeem himself because he failed, or he thinks in his mind he failed his child. So he's got a chance to help another one. That's what he's trying to do here. That's what he's doing with 11. And she doesn't get it. Of course, she's a petulant kid, and she doesn't realize how much he's helping her. Which is why they have their issues.
Yep, David Harbour, if I'm right, played Hopper. And by the way, you'll be seeing him again in his new job. Dun, 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 dun. As the new Hellboy.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yep, that's him.
Hang on, that's him.
Yes, that is him.
Oh, wow.
Easy, Phil.
Okay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a stunt chest, Phil. Don't get excited.
It's not about the chest.
Yeah, he'll be playing Hellboy in the reboot, which should be coming, I think, in the next year or so. Yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that, he kind of bonded with Elle, over the thing, and they go through their different trials because, he's trying to protect her. He's trying to keep her safe. And at the same time, how do you manage a kid who's got psychokinetic abilities? Talk about your worst nightmare, I'll just pick you up and throw you around a little bit if I'm angry at you. No.
Yeah, she's a kid. That's it. She's a kid. Having children myself as well, it's a case of, you do see that. It's a case of she's a kid wanting to be, and she's going to throw her toys at the pram, scream, shout, slam doors, and like you say, when she's got, telekinetic abilities and everything like that, it's like, well, if you can't move the TV, what on earth are you going to do? Yeah.
And then, of course, when she finds her mom, and then you find out why she's repeating this sequence over and over and over. That right there was just a tearjerker, man. I was like, that's hitting below the emotional belt, man.
It was Hodor all over again. It really was.
That was just hit me right in the chest bone there when they went through that. I'm like, that is just wrong. Okay, so what did everybody think? I believe her name was Callie or Kali, number 8. And what are your impressions on her?
It was interesting that she was such a vengeful person, but you can't blame her. I mean, she's very angry. She has a different ability, though. She can make people see things that aren't really there. I thought that was clever, but the idea that she set up a gang just to go on a vengeance kind of thing, I thought was a bit. It's something she would have to grow out of at some point. She could. I guess she serves as a contrast to 11, who has the support of some friends, whereas she didn't really. I guess because she's got this guy. 11's got this guy looking after her, and this girl didn't. She just had to go do it on her own. So
I like the fact that they've introduced 8 because that gives the franchise something more to work on in the next series. Give us more about 8 and how she's doing and everything, and what adventures lie for her with her gang.
Well, makes it curious. Will we see any other of the other numbers that since she was 8, what happened to the other ones like that? They got to be a couple of them showing up.
it makes you wonder how she got away as well, to be honest with you, because you know the circumstances of how 11 got away, but how did she get away?
No, she says it in one of the, when she was talking to 11. She said that when she was able to develop her powers in time, she made the illusion that whoever came in the door, she made them see something. They got so scared that she was able to walk. She ran into. She made them.
Yeah, that's how she describes it. When she finally had the ability to use her powers to a certain degree, she was able to, escape. You do it that way. Also, yeah, like I said, the other big kick in the chest, oh man, was when you meet Barb's parents. Here they are. All these other people know exactly what happened to Barb, but they can't tell them. And here they are. They're basically throwing everything they have into this investigation, trying to find out what happened to their daughter, and everybody can't tell them. That was just, oh man, that was a tearjerker there too. I was like, man,
I can't remember if they actually explained it, but you know how Barb's parents said, "Oh, they're selling their house." What was the reasoning behind that exactly?
There wasn't for the detective to investigate, to search for Bob. But luckily, like we see in the final episode, they didn't have to do that, and they had their foreclosure that she.
Okay, all right.
Blame it on the feds.
Yeah, they've been hiring people, and like I said, the latest guy got to the point that they were going to have to give up their house just to afford it, and oh man,
finger licking good.
Oh, that was another reference. Yeah, I remember them silly KFC commercials. Like, ooh.
But yeah, there was so much about the Russians there as well. You got the impression that it was just leading up to that. Wolverine's a Red Dawn, to be honest with you as well. You had that little aspect of it. I did like the fact that you had the private investigator who is just like determined to find it and lives in a secluded bunker hidden away out of the town. I think he's going to be a good thing as well if they do end up bringing him back next year. I do wonder how many people are going to come back, to be honest with you. Like I say, I was worried that they were going to kill Hopper, to be honest with you, because he's doing Hellboy, that whether he's going to be free to do next year. But it looks like, no, I thought there was going to be a big, death at the end of it, to be honest with you. And luckily there wasn't, apart from Sean Astin. So no,
I don't think they would work around his schedule, or maybe give him a smaller part if they need to. Like I said, this series ends with nothing really looking forward. I mean, except that last scene. I mean, otherwise, in other words, like where series one had a lot of questions up in the air that they followed up on here. This one just seemed to kind of finish the story, did it not? I mean, it seems like they'll have to come up with something new next year, because she closed the gate or whatever, and everything's hunky dory, I suppose.
Yeah, but you saw when the dance party when they went to the other world.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Other than that one scene, that you don't really have anything open for them to follow up on next time. There's going to be some kind of new threat, I would think.
Not entirely true, because despite the fact that they took the creature out of Will, he could still be a portal himself.
There you go.
Yeah, the Duffer Brothers. I watched the first of the Beyond Stranger Things thing they had after, and they said that the snowball thing was exactly where they wanted to end up eventually. Originally, that's where they were going to have 11 show up and reunite with the group, and then they decided to push that ahead and then push the snowball back to the end. Oh yeah, and so they've kind of planned it to end this particular way. It's so it kind of makes me wonder, how are they going to pick it up next year? What have what of them two got planned? Them dirty, weird guys.
What I wish they would have done was the episode that showed 11 seeing her sister like that. Since the previous episode ended in such a cliffhanger, we had to wait another episode to find out what happens. They should have just shifted around, because they should have done the 11 first, then there's those two stories back to back, because I was like, what happened? I thought we had to wait all the way to the last episode to find out what happened. I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah,
it's a binge show. You don't really have to wait. You just hit next.
Well, I don't binge one. I'm not that much of a fiend. I have to slowly pace myself.
I think props must go to all the soundtrack music that we've had throughout the playoff of this season. Very good little 80s soundtrack that came through throughout the movie or throughout the show. I kind of like that.
Well, to be fair, that True Colors went on a little bit too long, I think. But they kept editing it.
Yeah, I did not like to hear that Kenny Rogers Dolly Parton song either. I like I was had to be there.
That was just to show how nerdy the Hobbit guy was.
Yeah.
And also it's the case of if anyone here ever played Dragon's Lair in the arcade, it was the most expensive machine on the thing. There was no instructions on the cabinet, so you didn't know what you're supposed to do. Any false move and you just lose your money. So that was literally a license to print money. So I can understand why they got so harassed with it after one go.
Yeah, the arcade. Remember back in the day when you hung out at the arcade, you don't see them anymore. And even when you do, in the very few instances you do see one, there's usually nobody in it. It's sad. It's kind of like an emotional roller coaster. Oh, but yeah, soundtrack excellent. Got to throw them that. Definitely, a really good pick of songs they had throughout the entire series. Okay, any other quirks, tidbits?
The facility, how stupid are they to think that they could control the portal and keep everything from entering our world?
I just like how they were able to dig so far down into the floor with relatively no problem whatsoever, to be honest with you. It's a very easily workable job to do, it would appear, to just make this huge trench going down hundreds of feet.
Did they ever explain what was rotting the pumpkins and whatnot?
It was the energy from the other world.
It was those tunnels that were going.
The vines. The vines.
Yeah. They were. Yeah, that's what was killing all the plants. Was those vines that were coming from the upside down and stretching throughout those tunnels, which was creepy as hell when he found those. I just love the fact that they thought they had this thing contained. They thought they had it beat, but meanwhile, it was a lot bigger than they contemplated. It was already out. It was already getting it into our world. Okay, anything else?
I just like the idea that as well that you had the idea of the sort of possession, the reverse spying, and is it the right one, not the right kid, and everything like that. I did like that, and the fact is that he's referring to whatever this creature is on the other side as he. You have made him angry and everything like that. It does, instead of it being like, oh, it's just like another realm and it's just like random monsters just coming through, it actually gives you an idea that there's a focused sort of sentience to the evil. So you actually think, right, okay, well, what is going to happen now? Rather than it's just like, oh, well, it's a hell gate or a portal or whatever, and you're going to get all the monsters come through. You get an idea that there is a structure to it. So I think that's something that you've come away from this year, I think, that you didn't have last year. I know Tim said, there were still questions to be asked last year, but you think, well, this is definitely now a part of a bigger story. Where they're going to go from that, I don't know. I'm just looking forward to Matthew Modine to come back, to be honest with you. This seems to be where you get everyone who was like big in the 80s, and they really do get a good old shake of the stick when they come back as well. So Steve Guttenberg will probably be back next year.
Hopefully Molly Wingwall.
Yeah, it's not like he's doing a whole lot of anything these days, Steve. So it could happen. And all right, here's another one. Here's one of my favorite moments, and it was all the way towards the end of Stranger Things 2. That I was laughing my ass off at. When he was sitting outside the compound as those guys are packing everything and rolling out, laughing at him and waving as they go out.
And they flip the bird at him as well, going out as well. I wonder what happened to that one they stuffed in the fridge, though.
Oh, that's a good question.
I wonder. Yeah, because he was already dead, so he didn't have to die like the other one. He was already dead.
Because I must confess, when I watched the first couple of episodes, and he's sort of like, they're out trick or treating, and he dropped the video camera, and then he ran off. It's sort of like, why is no one going on about where the hell has the video camera gone? Because I remember how expensive those bloody things were.
I remember buying those in 87, 88.
Yeah. You could buy a good junk car for what them damn things cost back. Oh,
So yeah, that was a case of where's the video camera? Where's the bloody video camera? And thankfully it did show up.
Yeah,
But
because back then, especially the one that had the mini cassettes, that was like a couple $1,000.
mhm.
Yeah, that was an excellent scene where she's trying to figure out how come the VCR won't play the video. So
Yeah.
they're like, what do I do now? That was great.
Now that she's trying to put in the regular VHS player.
Yeah, that's one cool thing too. The whole nostalgia of the limitations of the '80s. I mean, all that was high tech back then, but nowadays, that's why setting the show then is so brilliant because they don't have cell phones. They can't just call each, hey, come pull me out of this cave. They can't do that. All they have is walkie-talkies. So it's just like
Morse code, yeah.
Yeah, Morse code. Yeah, who'd have thought that would turn up? That was insane. It's really cool how they've captured that whole era of just on the verge of being cool. And I'm just like stuff that was so cool back then is obsolete today. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no GPS. Ooh. No instant messaging. Oh, heck, no internet, period.
Maybe they're all a little bit more sane than today's people are. I guess that's why.
I'm sure a lot of kids who are watching this, watch the series, and Dustin goes to get those books from Reptiles and said, "What is a library? What is a 5-book limit?
That's true.
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System was the closest thing we had to Google search back then.
Card catalog.
Yeah.
And like I say, I had a Sinclair Spectrum in the 80s, so I can actually use BASIC as a programming language even now. But unfortunately, it's so out of date. It was out of date by the time it reached the early 90s. It really was.
Yeah, because I had a Commodore 64, and I thought I was the crap because I had that 300 baud messenger modem. Yeah. Ugh. Yes, the days of yesteryear. So, anything else before we wrap it up?
When sorry.
No, go ahead, Jay.
When 11 goes to close the portal, did anyone else get a Torchwood Miracle Day vibe from?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
No, I was enjoying watching the program.
She's closing the giant space vagina. Yeah.
That was my thing. Sorry.
No, the thing is, when it comes back, that means now we won't be calling her 11 anymore. We'll be calling her Jane. So that's her name.
Jane.
And speaking of that, little redheaded girl is the spitting image of Lauren Ambrose, is she not? I mean, I thought, how did they do that? I mean, that's the Torchwood Miracle gay girl. What's it?
Oh, yeah.
I wondered whether she was supposed to be a little bit alike as well, Firestarter, that sort of the blonde sort of ginger haired girl and everything like that. That sort of vibe to her as well. To be honest with you, I like the fact that she could muck in as well as all the boys as well. She could skateboard. She didn't have a bike. She had a skateboard because she was cool. And she could outdo
treated so
them.
badly. Even Elle didn't even want to shake her hand when she first meets her. He's like, she just walks right past her.
Oh, gosh, I just had an image of somebody rewriting that one song from Firefly, the hero of Hawkins, the girl they called Jane. So once again, entertaining series. It definitely had its twists and turns. Even, we even had a little bit of, more character development, a little bit, look back into, who 11 is, how she came to be and whatnot. And also we have a possibility of things going wrong once again in the future because obviously Mr. Shadow Monster is, banging on the door and he is not too happy that it's been closed. So anything else before we close it up?
If by the end of it, it doesn't sort of melt your heart, and even though you know it's coming, to be honest with you, the snowball at the end of it, by the time that you see it, you know it's coming. If it doesn't melt your heart by the end of it, you have no soul. You really don't.
I got a question. Does anyone think that the inclusion of Max to the game was necessary on?
Yeah,
something different.
It was a good. Remember, because of her, we got to see more character development with some of the other guys.
That's true. Yeah.
Like you saw, like even though Will was busy laying down like that, you see how Mike didn't want to talk to another, and then the two other guys were fighting for her. Like that.
Yeah.
So that was a good. That was a good development right there. Now, what happened the next season like that? Well, she has to be in the club because in reality, the one who should be kicked out is the one that kept that little pet
Dustin.
It wasn't that he lied about it to everybody.
And it was I think the big thing that you needed something like her as well to get Lucas's character moving along because
That's right.
Last year didn't really have that much of a role to play. This year was more of the year of Mike didn't really do that much this year. It was the second string kids that picked up and carried the show, which for me was a good thing now because everyone now was really wielding big tools and everything like that.
And I would keep my eye on Max because remember, gingers have no souls. Okay.
Oh.
Old stereotype. I didn't come up with it. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to rate this sucker and put it to bed. All right. Starting with AJ, out of 10, how do you rate the second series of Stranger Things?
9.5 out of 10. Just pure magic on screen.
Okay, William.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I look forward. I can't wait to see the new season whenever it returns, because I'm very love to know what's gonna happen with these characters. Especially we don't even know how far ahead they're gonna jump into the what year they're gonna be when it returns.
Philip, who watched it all the first night.
I'm giving it a good old 9.5 out of 10 because I enjoyed it. I had a lot more going for it than last year, and all I can say is there's more to come, and I'm looking forward to that when it happens.
Okay, Beef.
It's got to be a definite 9.5. I could say 10. It would have been easy to do a rehash, and I don't think you can really truly compare this to the first one because it's a whole different story. Yeah, you have an aspect of a continuation, but it's a whole different tale to tell with this, and there's brilliant character development of the kids anyway. So their lives are changing. It's PTSD, moving on, getting older, dealing with it. So there is an emotional heart to it, as well as the fantasy, horror element to it. So it's a definite 9.5 out of 10. It is, a magic trip down memory lane if you were there. Even if you weren't, and my kids have watched it, that it's a great story in itself. So
Okay.
I wish you had more than one a year.
Yeah, especially now that they're starting to age rather rapidly. It's that time. Okay, Elijah.
I'm gonna have to give this one a 9.5 out of 10. Like B said, it wasn't a rehash. They told something completely new, and it just worked very well.
Okay, Texas Tim.
It's an easy 10. It's an excellent sequel to an already good show. I think that's what they're implying here with the two. It's all fun. There's nothing really wrong with it at all. It's a very good second run of episodes, and hopefully they'll have more even quicker.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in with a 9 myself. Very well done, very well set up. Whole new direction. Using these characters, introducing new ones, and also giving us more info on some of the characters that we've already come to know. So I really got to hats off to the Duffer brothers, who, by the way, trivia fact, they're fraternal twins, not identical. Okay, so join us next time when I have no idea what we're doing yet. So when I have a topic, you'll all be the first to know. So take care, ta-ta, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Be seen.
Be seen.